Straight up at noon, welcome to the all-new Voice of Laguna. Delighted to see you, delighted to have you here, and delighted that you're listening in. An important thing has been happening here the last several weeks that we know of. It may have been longer. These blooms last longer. We've been talking about it all morning, and that's a harmful algae bloom causing negative impacts up and down the coast. And our very own Pacific Marine Mammal Center is under construction right now and has temporary pools. So I've been curious as to how they've been managing and what we as a community can do for them. In to talk today about the algae bloom and what we can do for their patients. We have Glenn Gray and Dr. Alyssa Deming. We welcome both of you to the program today. How are you?
Great. Thanks, Ed.
Good.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for the work you do. First of all, let's just answer this question. For how long has the bloom been affecting marine life here?
So I would say that our patient zero was actually a humpback whale that's stranded up in Huntington Beach, and that was the end of January. Okay. And we just got test results back from that animal that had sky-high domoic acid. Then following the next few weeks, we got a sprinkling of sea lions and common dolphins coming up throughout February. And then all of a sudden in March, things just escalated exponentially and exploded. And we rescued over 125 patients in March alone.
My God. And the blooms themselves are caused by warmer waters. What is the cause of the algae blooms themselves?
So algae is a plant, and they like things like your house plants will like. So longer sunlight days, so that as the summer approaches and there's more sunlight, they grow more. Warmer water and less fog, and as nutrients in the water as well. So those nutrients can come naturally from upwellings, which did occur this January and February, some weird La Niñas of upwellings bringing nutrients up to feed the blooms. But we're also a little bit concerned that there might be some runoff associated with the Fossex, which is the flame retardant that they put on the fires. And the epicenter of the bloom kind of started early February in the Malibu region, right after we had some rains after the fires. Right. So it might be a combination of both Mother Nature as well as some things that we're doing to our ocean environment that are exacerbating these blooms, because this is the worst one we've ever seen.
That makes sense. And only time will get rid of the blooms?
Yeah, they kind of can burn themselves out. They use a lot of oxygen or carbon dioxide and oxygen as they're eating away and growing in the environment. And so we have these booms and busts of the phytoplankton called Pseudonychia, which is the marine algae that produces the domoic acid. So we're hoping that things are calming down a little bit, but they're still out there in the environment. So if conditions start to move in a direction that supports a bloom again, it might flare back up.
And as I was mentioning to the audience this morning, tell me if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Ciguatera?
Yes, that's a different kind of toxin,
okay.
And that can be associated with some different kinds of illnesses in both marine animals and people. And paralytic shellfish poisoning is one of the number one causes of fishery closures, and it causes major commercial fishery strains for those fishermen when those blooms happen. And domoic acid is also a concern. If that gets into the fish, that can also have major impacts in health of people eating those fish.
Right, and birds and pelicans and sea lions and other animals that eat those fish, and dolphins that eat fish or whatever. It's just this nasty snowball effect that continues.
We're all very connected to the ocean, and maybe more connected than we realize.
Right.
But the same things that are impacting the birds, the sea lions, the whales, and the dolphins can absolutely impact humans as well.
And what are we seeing as the conditions of the animals when they wash themselves ashore?
Oh, it's been a really hard bloom. The amount of suffering that we've seen in some of these animals coming up has been horrible. So domoic acid is a neurotoxin. It mimics a natural hormone that you produce in your body called glutamate. And on your brain and on your heart, you have glutamate receptors. So the domoic acid, once ingested, can bind to the receptors in your brain or your heart and cause hyperexcitability. And that manifests in clinical signs like seizures, abnormal neurologic behavior, and animals being completely comatose or having heart issues as well.
Okay. And when they have seizures, you were mentioning just moments ago medicines that you can give animals, but you were unable to get for a while.
Yeah, the seizure medications we use in animals are the same that you would use in people.
Okay.
The most common one is Keppra, but that's an oral medication, and these animals aren't eating, and it's really hard to convince them to get oral medications in, but we're really good at getting injectable medications in them.
Okay.
One of the medications we use is something called phenobarbital, and because our animals are so large, we typically get that compounded in a higher concentration. That higher concentration phenobarb started not being made somewhat recently as the result of changes to some DEA laws that were more related to human medicine, but are now significantly impacting our patients. So we have to get this phenobarbital compounded to higher concentrations to give to our patients, but it's not being produced by compounding companies anymore. Because of that, we've had to go to the commercially available phenobarbital on a few cases, but unfortunately, just for 10 milliliters of the commercially available phenobarbital, it would be about $2,500 per patient per treatment. We've got over 125 patients right now, so financially that's not possible.
Right.
But I will say our hospital manager, Melena, has been working really closely with one of our compounding pharmacy drug reps, Trish, at Wedgwood Compounding Pharmacy, and they have now promised to make us what we need to be able to get our patients the treatments that they need to save their lives.
That is fantastic. And so I'll turn to you, Glenn, and say that she mentioned over 120 patients. I know right now there's construction going on, and you've got temporary pools to begin with. So how thin are you stretched as far as not just room, but being able to take care of medicinally and feed these animals?
We're really at the breaking point, to be candid with you.
Okay.
First of all, I want to thank the city and the Friends of the Dog Park who were kind enough to allow us to use that north end of the dog park where we created this temporary facility. We actually did build in 7 pools and holding pens and a hospital and so forth. But we're at roughly 100 patients in-house, which is the capacity for that temporary facility. Had our new facility been open, that would have been a godsend, but and we didn't plan on constructing during a DA bloom either.
Right.
But we will be open. The new facility is now targeted to be functional by the first part of July. I hope this bloom is not still in existence at that point in time, but if it is, we'll have extra capacity then, almost double.
And let's say we, in the next month or two, see another 100 to 125 patients. Where do they go?
Well, those are the tough decisions that Dr. Deming and her team face and have been facing daily. It's sad, but sometimes you have to make a decision to euthanize.
Okay.
We have sister organizations north and south of us, and we all try to come to the aid of one another, but they're being inundated as well.
Right.
So we really don't have another facility as an option right now.
Okay. And what is the best thing that our listeners can do to help? I know I've got to say donations, and
Well, clearly I'd be remiss if I didn't
right.
double that. Yes,
Right.
but as I mentioned during the public comments at City Council a week or so ago, 2 things. One, be patient with us because we are prioritizing our responses towards the live animals. And unfortunately, there has been a fair number of dead animals on the beach. We know that's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but we have to get to the live animals first.
Right.
We will attend to those that are dead. The other thing is please keep your distance. I know it's curious, and you don't often have an encounter with a seal on the beach, and you don't want one, especially these. They are unpredictable. They're in pain, and if aggravated, they might do something that could hurt you.
Right. And Dr. Deming, when once you take in a patient and you've treated them, what's the length of time generally to get them healthy again and back in the water? And do you even want them back in the water with a bloom like this?
Yeah, I think that is one of the hardest questions, so I'll answer that first. Not having a place to safely return these animals to is one of the hardest decisions we have to make. When we get them successfully through rehab, which on our best days with domoic acid patients, it's about a 50-50 chance for them. But once we're ready to release them, especially these adult animals, they need to go. And And we're at the point where some are ready to go home, but we don't want to release them back into a bloom. But we need to free up the space in our hospital to be able to respond and continue to get these sick animals off the beach. So that's where some of that decision making is made, where we do send them out and just hope for the best. There's about 250,000 sea lions off our coast right now. And so there's a lot of them in the water kind of facing this toxic algae bloom, not in our hospital. The ones in our hospital are actually the lucky ones. So we have a little bit of guilt returning them home when blooms happen, but in order to facilitate continued responses, we have to. And that's one of the things that Glenn kind of mentioned, is just making sure you respect these animals' space on the beach. Our team is rescuing anywhere from 5 to 10 sea lions a day, with a sprinkling of live stranded dolphins as well. So we prioritize the ones that have the increased risk of public safety concerns or interactions with pets off leashes, like the Huntington Dog Beach. So we're doing our best to get out there and keep the people safe as well as the animals, but the lifeguards have been integral in making sure that the animals don't get spooked back in the water, so our rescue teams can get out there and give them the help they need, and also keeping people back away from these animals, because the closest living land relative to a sea lion is actually a bear. And if there was a bear sitting on the beach, you probably wouldn't want to take a selfie with it. So please respect them. They're sick animals. They need help, and you could spook them off the beach or potentially get bit if you get too close to
I'm
them.
going to ask you a couple of dumb guy questions, dumb guy on the street questions. So the bloom itself, and we're thinking it started in the Malibu area and it's working its way south. How far south has it worked its way down, and how do we know?
Yeah, well, we have a great group called the Southern California Ocean Observing System, and that's Scripps and a bunch of scientists that are out there actively testing the water. They do everything from physically testing the water for the algae, as well as using satellites to look for things like chloroform to kind of estimate. And then they have really good models to predict how these blooms are going to spread, how long they're going to last. So we know for sure right now, this is one of the largest blooms we've ever seen. It's taking up almost the entire Southern California bight. It started in Malibu, but it spread to Ventura and Santa Barbara, moving northward, and it's also spreading southward to San Diego. That's kind of the limit of where we test, but we do expect that the Mexican sea lions are probably also experiencing similar symptoms from this bloom.
Okay, and since you brought San Diego up, the first thing that comes to mind is there additional space that maybe SeaWorld could partner? We could partner with SeaWorld and utilize some of their space for recovering animals?
They're actually one of the organizations I was alluding to.
Okay.
We're called a stranding organization, licensed under NOAA, and within SeaWorld, they have a stranding organization.
Okay.
So
and they're
it's,
also
sorry.
very inundated too, as well. And that's a part of the problem, is when these blooms happen with such a wide geographic extent, all of these stranding networks that have limited funds and limited capacity get stretched to the brink. And that's one of the important reasons of why we're hoping that we can keep our temporary facility, because year to year, on an average year, we should be able to manage out of the barn.
Right.
But when there's these really large events that are impacting all of us, if we can kind of pop up that triage hospital and not just offer Orange County the ability to continue to get these potentially dangerous animals off the beach, but also help relieve San Diego and LA County too in these bigger years, that would really help improve not just patient care for the sea lions and the dolphins, but also public safety.
When a dolphin washes itself ashore or comes ashore and is sick and seizing, how much less time does it have than a sea lion that comes up? I wouldn't imagine that it would have much time at all.
Yeah, that's a really good question. If you do come across a dolphin on the beach, never push it back. The dolphins know what they're doing, and if they're stranding themselves on the beach, it's because they're sick and they need a doctor's appointment. So although seeing a dolphin flopping around on the beach can be awful, especially if they're having seizures, stay away from the animal and don't push it back. But you're right, the domoic acid in the dolphins are so severe that by the time they beach themselves, they're kind of in the final throes of having seizures and what we call kind of agonal, like kind of in that process of transitioning. So we try and get out there as quickly as we can to help alleviate some of that suffering for the animal. And so far we've had, in the past 3 weeks, 9 live common dolphins strand, and every single one of them either died right before our rescue team got there, or as we were attempting to control their seizures, either passed away or we had to euthanize them because it was so severe.
And when do you expecting to receive the anti-seizure medication?
We're hoping next week Trish from Wedgwood will be able to
Okay.
get that to us. That will be really helpful for our sea lion patients to help control their seizures. The dolphin patients are a little bit trickier with that. And one of the major issues we're seeing is a lot of our sea lion and dolphin patients are pregnant. And this toxin is water loving, so your amniotic fluid is actually made of water. So
Right.
they end up storing the toxin in their amniotic fluid, and that's re-intoxicating the mothers as their kidneys are trying to cycle it out of the
Right,
body. So there has unfortunately been, because this bloom is a weird time of year, it's been a little bit harder to treat these animals because we need to induce labor and clear that amniotic fluid out of their system in order to save the mom. And some of those labor induction drugs don't work quite as well in these animals when they're so early on in their pregnancies. So the poor moms have been having a lot of challenges with that, some dystocias or challenges having their babies. And it's just been really hard on our volunteers and our staff to kind of not just see, it's not just the adult animals you see, but there's another baby inside of them that's impacted.
Is it a death sentence for the fetus?
Unfortunately, it is. In utero, domoic acid exposure has proven to cause brain damage and heart damage in that fetus. And so we've done some great work with animals during the 2023 bloom where we actually kept those babies alive, and we released 2 of them and we placed one of them because she had a seizure disorder as a result of the domoic acid intoxication. But that bloom was very different. That bloom happened in January, and sea lions have really cool reproductive strategies that I won't get too far into, but I will say they all ovulate on the longest day of the year, the summer solstice.
Okay.
And most of them get pregnant in the summer, and they all have their babies right around June 15th. So that
Fascinating.
isn't that cool?
That is absolutely cool.
We're
Yes.
so much more connected to nature than I think we realize. It's
Right.
not just the sea lions that long days change things, but that means that bloom in 2023 with those pregnant mamas were fully gestated. So when we induced labor and those babies came out, they were pretty happy looking and healthy looking, and we want to understand the morbidity or the non-mortality but the other lingering impacts of in utero DA exposure. So we kept little Raindrop. She actually, because she started having seizures, she's going to require a lifetime of medication. So University of Santa Cruz's Long Marine Lab actually took her on as an animal, and they're going to be kind of testing her memory and seeing her problem solving skills to better understand the impacts of in utero DA exposure. The unfortunate side of that is with a bloom in February, these fetuses are so early on in gestation that they're non-viable. They can't live outside the mother yet. They need another 4 months of growing and getting nutrients from the mom. So unfortunately, all of these babies are not making it.
This is so tragic. This is horrible. And I before I get back into the necessity of our community to jump in on this, once a sea lion or a dolphin or an animal of any kind gets this neurological disorder, are they, even though they're healthy, even though we brought them back to health, will they suffer neurological disorders once they go back?
An excellent question, and we're doing a lot of research to try and understand what's in the best interest of these patients. It's really hard to be a vet for wildlife and animals because they can't really tell you how they're feeling. They never do recheck appointments once we release them for the most part, and they never refill their prescriptions. So that is a lot of the decision making we make with our patients day to day. If they make it through their 1 week of treatment where we're flushing out the toxin, we're trying to control their seizures, we kind of quote unquote allow them to have seizures during that week because the toxin's still on board. Following that first week of treatment, they shouldn't be having seizures anymore because that toxin should be out of their system. So we monitor them for about 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the space and the progress of the animal, and see if they have any additional seizures. If they do have seizures on the other side of that, it's proof that their brain has been damaged from prolonged seizure activity, and those animals are non-releasable because you can't be a marine mammal that swims in the ocean and having seizures on a regular basis. We probably err on the side of releasing some animals that may be what we call chronically impacted, but that's because we can't take back euthanasia. So if we do have questions if that animal is chronically impacted and it seems like otherwise it's acting like a normal sea lion, we will release it. And if that animal does come back up on the beach, that's a signal. We do perform things like MRIs on the animals, which might blow your mind, but we bring them down to a field trip in San Marco, and we've got some great neurologist partners at Veterinary Specialty Hospital that will put our sea lions in their dog and cat MRI, and we can check out what their brain looks like. But that's also very expensive and logistically challenging when we're triaging these really large events. So we mostly base those decisions off clinical signs, and we've gotten pretty good at it, unfortunately, because these blooms have become a lot more regular.
Thank you so much for the clarity on that answer. I really appreciate it. And that leads me to you. Glenn, once again, our audience, and I'll tell the audience right now, the best thing that we can all do, I think, aside from just wishing them well, is writing a check. So if our audience wants to help, how do they? Where do they send it? And what else can we do?
Thanks. Yeah, we do have an urgent appeal going on along with this bloom. So the easiest way is just to go to our website, or if you happen to be in town, we're temporarily functioning out of an office at 312 Broadway, so you can stop by.
The old Chase Bank.
In the old Chase Bank facility. So we're there until we move back in July. But again, the website makes it easy to donate. Dr. Deming mentioned first the availability and then the cost of the medicines. It's extraordinarily high, but even the food, just basic food, and given the condition of our patient population now, many of them aren't eating regular fish. But even setting that aside, the half that are costing us. What was it, Dr. Deming?
515 pounds of fish a day so far, and that's with half of our patients not eating. The big girls get about 15 pounds a day. The adult males get about 30.
And that's about $1 a pound. And we have to serve food that we know is clean.
Right.
Sometimes we get boaters that come in, hey, I had a big catch, can you take it? But we can't because we don't know if it's infected.
Right.
So it's pretty much human quality food that we're serving.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so we could use your help. Thank you.
All right, and thank you. I can't thank you each enough for the work that you do and the work that you will continue to do. Let's keep this conversation going. Let's keep this on the forefront of everyone's thinking. And please come back and give us an update.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Do. Thanks, Ed.
Glenn Gray and Dr. Alyssa Deming, the Pacific Marine Mammal Center. We still run the spots for the fish, by the way, so we're going to continue that. If you're looking to help, you can contact me here. I'll get you in touch with them, or just go to the Pacific Marine Mammal Center's website. Thank you again to both of you.
Okay. Thanks so much.
12:22 the time. It's the voice of Laguna. From Laguna Beach to Myrtle Beach to the Jersey Shore, the best music on the planet is on the voice of Laguna.